Hello, and thank you so much for purchasing the Synth patch. I am Eric Barfield, founder and patch designer at patchfoundry.com, and I'm just going to give you a quick walkthrough today of how to get started with your Synth main stage concert. For starters, you should have received a link to a download that will give you a zip file for the Synth. I'm going to tap on it here. Usually this will show up when you download it under the downloads folder here. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this here, double tap it to unzip it. This is Mac only, of course. Once I'm done with unzipping it, I'm going to delete the original zip just to make some space, and we'll delete that later. Now I'm going to double tap on the folder, and there's going to be three elements here that we're going to look at today. We have the concert, we have patches, and we have a Readme file. Start off with the Readme file. So the Readme file is essentially just where you can get all of your stuff. It talks a little bit about the synth itself. One of the important things here is that if you want to use it with your controller and have everything mapped automatically to your controller, you can go to patchfoundry.com/free mainstage templates to download a free template for your controller. And then we talk about setup and a few other things that you can refer back to here. And I won't bother you with all the details here. You can look for yourself whenever you need it. Second thing we have is patches. Each one of the patches are grouped into 5 categories: ARP, bass, leads, pads, which are kind of like atmospheric pads, and poly, which are more than one note are possible to play, so it's no longer monophonic like the traditional monosynth tend to be. I'm also going to go back to our Synth now and open the concert. So to open it, you just double tap. You'll need the latest version 3.4.3 is what I created this one with, and it should work. But I always recommend using the latest version of MainStage. Take just a second. It may hold here, just because even though this is very CPU friendly, it will sometimes pause, particularly if you have a slower computer or if you're recording like I am. And it's up. So all of the patches on our left side are the patches that are in those folders I mentioned earlier. Let's just go over a few things about the overall layout and some of the quirks of this particular version. There's a lot here. I'm going to try and keep it pretty simple. We'll start by going to Perform mode, which will put me in full screen here. And we're going to just show you a few things to check out. For starters, there are 3 oscillators, just like the regular original mini modes used to have. They have the usual options. The thing that I'm running to make this work is ironically the ES2 synth. And I experimented with all the synths in Logic trying to find one that most accurately produced the Moog sounds, and this was the winner, believe it or not. So I'm going to close this one down, and because of that, obviously this will not work exactly like a Moog synth, and that's not the idea. The idea here is to create a tribute to the mini Moog synth, not a copy. So for instance, there are different options for what we can have in each one, whereas this would be different for a Moog. Also, we have a few adjustments, like we have pitch to cutoff, which allows you to adjust the pitch or the cutoff with the modulation wheel just by selecting it. There's a few other things that are important to know about. We have a really beautiful silver reverb, which is very CPU efficient, but gives some really cool kind of plate-like reverbs. And then a totally tricked out tape delay. This tape delay is one of my favorite things because it has warble and it just really feels authentic. There are a total of 50 patches here. You can have all of these loaded in with very little CPU drain, because this is a ES2 synthesizer, which is very light on the CPU, which is great. We have an arpeggiator section built in, again, not in the original at all. And then everything else will pretty much operate the same way you would expect a Mini-Moog Tribute to operate. So the last thing I'll show you here that I think really takes this to the next level is that you can use any of these patches in Logic Pro as well as MainStage. Let me show you how. I'm going to come up here, quit MainStage. Take just a second because my computer's running a little sluggish from recording. I'm going to launch Logic Pro. And this will take just a moment as well. Scanning some audio units. And I'm going to just create an empty project. And we're going to select software, and I'll come back in here in just a second. So now that I have a selected one in here, I'm going to tap here, and we're going to look under settings. I'm going to tap up here under the settings, and then let's see here. We're going to look for just a moment. I'm going to Command H to hide this. We'll come over to our patches, and any of these patches should be able to be dragged and dropped into Logic Pro. So I'll grab that, go over Logic Pro, drop it, and there we go. It's all loaded in, and it'll sound exactly how it sounds in the concert. So the other advantage is I've also mapped smart controls. So if you're a smart control fan, you can just bring up your smart controls here, and all of the essential controls for this synth will be right down here. Now obviously, I'm sure there's a lot of other questions that you have. I'm always happy to answer anything that you might run across, or any glitches or bugs. Hopefully not, but sometimes that happens. And I'd be happy to help you with that if you just go to patchfoundry.com/contact. Thank you so much, and thanks again for purchasing